Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Bikinis After Babies. Thank you so much for joining us today. As always, I am one of your hosts, Mandy Rashawn, here with your other host, IFBB Bikini Pro, Jillian Hughes.
Hey, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us today. We're so excited to welcome back a special guest. And today we are joined by the lovely Daraja Weidmoyer, IFBB Bikini Pro, two-time Bikini Olympian, and new mom. Not long after her second Olympia in 2023, Daraja made the announcement that she would be stepping away from the stage to embark on a new chapter of her life, sharing with the world that she and her husband were expecting their first child. Daraja welcomed her beautiful daughter, Azalea, into the world in November of 2024, and she is now navigating this powerful new era of motherhood while continuing to inspire women everywhere. Amidst becoming a mom, Daraja went all in as part of the coaching trio Refined Strength with her friends Rachel and Jessica. Through coaching and what she shares online, Daraja leads and inspires women, especially moms, to build confidence, strength, and a healthy lifestyle that fits real life. Today, we're going to be talking about her journey through the sport, her transition into motherhood, and what it really looks like to rebuild your body and mindset postpartum, and how she's using her platform to empower women in a whole new way. Daraja is one of the most respected athletes in our sport and someone who truly embodies what it means to pursue excellence both on and off the stage. Welcome back to Bikinis After Babies, Daraja Weidmoyer.
Well, thank you so
Hey,
much for
welcome.
that introduction. Oh my goodness.
We are
J
so excited to have you.
Thank you. I'm excited to be back on. I was, still, I can't believe it feels like I was just on. That's how fast time is going now.
I know it goes by so fast. And for you listeners, Daraja, this is her second time with us. If you want to know a little bit more about her background, you can go to episode 40. But we're so happy to have you with us today, especially with your busy schedule with your little one. So greatly appreciate your time.
Thank you. No, thank you for your patience.
Yeah. Well, we know what it's like to sort of juggle all kinds of crazy schedules. So we can totally appreciate it. And we're really glad to just have a little moment of your time to get some updates and also just kind of to dive into your perspective on kind of what it's like being like fresh into motherhood and living the prep life. But for those people who are not familiar with you, can you share a little bit with us about sort of when you got started, when you turned pro, and some highlights along the way?
Yes. Okay. So, and I'll try to keep this short because I have the tendency to go on little tangents.
It's
So,
okay.
I first started competing in 2018. I was really looking for confidence. Then I was graduating college. My last couple years, I kind of just started getting into the gym because I played tennis competitively for a long time. And after that, I got kind of burnt out and I was like, I need something else that's for me that I'm not doing for anybody else. So the gym was that for me. And then I kind of hit a bit of a wall. I was like, okay, I still have that competitive spirit. Like, what can I do? And my now husband, boyfriend at the time, was like, you should do either powerlifting or bodybuilding, something to kind of just get you into that next chapter in your fitness journey. And I was like, well, powerlifting would be cool, but I don't like to bench. So, so Angelica Teixeira, who I think is probably the inspiration for a lot of bikini competitors even to
Mhm.
this day, is me, especially now becoming a mom. She's a mom of two beautiful little girls. She was the reigning champion at the time, and I was like, man, that's badass. So I was hooked. I did my first show. Well before I was probably stage lame. But I didn't know any better. I was just up there having a good time. Posing was not, perfect, but you live and you learn. And after that, I was like, this is a lot of fun. And so I won my first overall at the second show. It was a smaller show, Dexter Jackson Classic. And then I was like, oh, what's nationals? And then I did nationals when it was in Miami at the end of the year, and I got 4th out of and that was nationals. Those the bikini lineups for those shows at that time was massive.
Mhm.
Mm.
I was like, "What is this 4th place?" I was like, "Oh, and 2 more, I would have won my pro card," whatever that means. So, I was like, "Okay, so that's the next goal." So then the following year, I won the overall at Tampa Pro as an NPC and then won the overall at North Americans, and I was like, "Oh, I'm, kinda good at this."
Yeah.
So then after that, I was like, okay, Sandy, should we, try a pro show? And she was like, just try, see how it goes. And I won. that one. And then I was like, okay, new judging panel. I haven't seen these judges, so let me go to another pro show the following weekend. Ashley Kay and some other Olympians were competing there, and I ended up winning that one. Ashley got second to me, and I was like, "Oh, what? Okay."
I can't imagine that feeling. That has to feel
I was like,
incredible.
"Yeah." I was like, "What is happening?" And then I was like, "Oh, let's apply for the Arnold." And I got invited to the Arnold the following year, and that was also the year that I had qualified for the Olympia, so it was just, like, was a fast track to,
Yeah.
like, a lot of success in this sport. It took it didn't really sink in right away, obviously, because there's just that next goal, go, 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 and I did my first Olympia the following year in 2019 no, 2020, and I got 14th, and that was, like, the first time that I'd ever kind of, like, been passed by for first call-outs, second call-outs. I was like, "What is this third call-outs feeling? I don't like that." So, that kinda lit a fire under my butt. I was like, "Okay, what do I need to do to then never be back in that spot again?" And while that's never guaranteed, you can work your ass off and still never, n quite make it up there, I was like, "Okay, I'm focused now on this next goal." And so after that, I did 3 more Olympias. I got ninth. No. Yes. Was it ninth? Yeah, I think it was ninth, 6th, and then 4th. And then no, it was 6th, 4th, and then I got ninth. I did that reverse order, sorry. And after that, I was like, "Okay, let's have a baby."
Yeah.
'Cause
Y
my biggest thing was I definitely I mean, I can see it now as my body's kind of morphing back into that, like, I see the Bikini Pro underneath, my postpartum body, but I didn't want to put off having a baby. I didn't wanna put off starting a family just for this, thing that I could maybe continue to progress. I also knew that my body needed a break, and I I like to follow my intuition and my gut feeling when it comes to those things, and I
Mhm.
do have endometriosis. I also struggle with PCOS, and so that can also sometimes age your reproductive system, and I just didn't wanna risk it. I was 28, and I wanted to make sure that no matter where I ended up in my competitive career, I had my family. So, yeah.
Yeah. Wow. Well, I mean, I think that's probably something that a lot of women face, like, especially if they're around that time and like they're kind of getting married while they're like, working their way up in the pro ranks. Like, have people reached out to you and asked, just for like advice or, talk to you about sort of their decision about maybe putting it off or taking a break? Because I think that's probably hard for a lot of people.
I think that I haven't had any, like I've had my clients sometimes they'll kind of ask me and pick my brain about it, but I don't think I have had, like, a whole lot of DMs that with that specific question, but I have had moms when I do post content that's, like, related to that will kind of, like, react to my stories or respond and kind of say, "Well, thank you for your transparency because I
Mhm.
was feeling like this." And, obviously also there's always gonna be people that are like, "Oh, your body's ruined after having a baby, and, like, it's never gonna be the same." And that's probably a whole other conversation,
Yeah.
but, that's I think for me in any phase of life, I really try to just I one, having a baby is just such a blessing,
Mhm.
and it's
Yeah.
such a miracle thing to happen, and I have a lot of friends who have struggled a lot in their journey to conceive who are going through rounds of IVF or struggling with infertility. And it's just not something that I wanted to take for granted. I didn't want to let I didn't want to let any sort of insecurity that may or may not exist without social media, let's be honest,
Yeah.
Mhm.
cloud my joy or, my judgment on this chapter of my life and keep me from enjoying it and embracing it because it's a beautiful thing. So,
Yeah. I think that is so honest and but I think it had to be hard because of course with your line of work and just in how we all communicate with one another, like you're online constantly and seeing so many things. Like, was that ever hard for you to sort of just see people that were getting show ready and thinking, well, how long is it going to be before I can do this again? Or were you able to just put those feelings aside?
Honestly, and this might be surprising, but it didn't really phase me too much. What phases me the
Yeah.
most, honestly, is, like, seeing my, like, prep body, like, when I scroll through
Yeah.
pictures and
Yeah.
seeing
Yeah.
myself in shape, because 'cause I'm like,
Mhm.
"Dang, like, I was kind of a baddie." Uh, you know? I should have flaunted it more, no. But I think that's what sometimes, like, kinda gets me in my head is like, "Ugh, will I ever, like, kind of get that back?" And I definitely struggle with those thoughts at times, but I try not to live in that too long. Um, Try to be very mindful of my thought process as I kind of, like, observe those
Mhm.
thoughts that come in. I think the other thing that can sometimes be a little overwhelming or intimidating is when I'll see, like, and we all have different body types. We all carry pregnancy and postpartum differently. And, like, sometimes you'll see moms that just, like, 4 weeks after having a baby, it's just where did that no, there's no way. And sometimes I think that you can equate that with, like, how well you're doing as a
Mhm.
mom. And it ultimately has nothing to do with how well you perform as a mother. I think the important thing, and this is also something I talk about in some of my posts, is like you just have to be taking care of yourself. Yes, that can lead to, seeing physical changes, and it usually should, right? If you're working out, you're eating well, you're hydrating, you're doing your best to get your sleep and getting rest when you can, sure, you're probably going to see some positive changes on the outside. But if your cup is empty, you're running on fumes 3, 4, 5 days in a row, you're not going to be able to show up as your best self for your baby, for your partner. And that's, I think, what is should be the primary focus. Putting so much pressure on yourself, especially with someone who, like, I know what an optimal routine looks like for getting results. I've done it for years, and I coach people on doing that. And so having to learn how to, like, redefine optimization in this, like, lack of routine now and lack of consistency in my schedule has been a challenge, but there are moments where I have to, again, be mindful and go, "Okay, today did not go as planned. She's not napping like she normally does. She might be teething. She's a little fussier. She's not letting me kind of just have my time to, like, get a little bit of work done." Or my husband is late coming home from work and I don't get to go to the gym today because, like, she still nurses to sleep primarily and, like, all this stuff. So I have to kind of not allow that to just push me into this, like, well, then why bother attitude.
Mhm.
Yeah.
There's always that, like, something is better than nothing, and I have my something is better than nothing workout. Sometimes it's at home, sometimes it's 30 minutes of just moving my body at the gym and having some me time, but it really is better than nothing.
That's
Oh,
so
and
true.
it is, and it helps so many women to hear that because I know, like you said, you were at top of your career, you see your photos, you think that, but so many women, we beat ourselves up so much, like we can be doing more, or if we're not 100%, if we're not perfect, if we don't do everything just how we need to do it, or eat, drink our water, have all of our food, what's the point? Like, why, if we can't finish our water today, like, why even eat my protein? Like, if I can't get my
Yeah.
workout in, why am I even gonna bother eating my meal prepped food? It's like, a little bit is always better than nothing, and just giving your mind that break and that grace, and the fact that you can teach that to people now, like you said, you had the optimal, like, perfect schedule, and now you have, your beautiful bundle of joy and all of these different obstacles, and it's like, no, this is how we can still navigate success. It just looks different.
And it's completely changed my mindset around, like, home workouts or, like, I think either it has to, like, the bar has to be here or, like, we just can't just do what we need to do. It's like, no, that's one that no longer serves me in this phase of my life. But I also now understand fully, like, from experience, okay, if I do have a mom, a first time mom, or a toddler, like she's a toddler mom, whatever it is, not even just my mom, is maybe it's someone who's just very overwhelmed with life. She has a lot on her plate. She's, running a business, whatever it is. I know how to give more grace, I think, and have more compassion and not just empathy, but like I understand. So if they say, "Hey man, like this week was really just hard." I'm like, "Okay, let's kind of dissect this, break this down. What worked, what didn't work, but let's not dwell on that. Let's just focus on having a better day, a better week."
Yeah, I think that's so powerful. It's probably helped you a lot as a
Mhm.
coach now too to like have that
Yeah.
perspective. And I'm sure your clients like, well, she gets it, because she's got kids. And I'm sure you're like a, very supportive and sympathetic person. And you were great at coaching moms beforehand. But I do think it gives you a new perspective because you can't really expect, let's say you're, prepping someone for a show and you've assigned them these like, hour and a half workouts and they've got to do all this cardio. And it's like you realize when you're in it, like that actually isn't realistic. And then you kind of go, well, is it even really necessary? I think for me, it just made me question a lot of the things that I thought were super important that I'm like,
Mhm.
well, those had to go when my schedule changed because now I have little ones I've got to take care of.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I want to kind of dive in a little bit to like the pregnancy piece because I think there's also a lot of pressure on women to like just like crush it as a pregnant person. Like, like you're glowing and you have all this energy and you do all these things. And like, I think we, all three of us can sort of agree that that isn't always the case.
Not for
Would
me.
you, yeah. So would you share a little bit about sort of like, what that was like and, ways that you found to sort of just do your best while,
And
feeling
it
big as a
really was.
house?
I was just doing my best. Let me tell you, I wanted so bad to be that, like, that pregnancy that was just inspiring other moms to, like, get in the gym and eat well and, like, just have all this energy going on hikes and doing all these things. Pregnancy kicked my ass. Like, like, it was one of the most humbling experiences I've ever had. Obviously, so was postpartum, but the thing is, like, and I wanted it really bad, but I had morning sickness from, like, around 7 weeks all the way to I wanna say it felt like it was completely gone by, like, week 20. Um, in, like, week 16 to week 20, it was kind of on and off, like, I would still have the nausea, and I was determined to not throw up. So, I was just really nauseous and, like, on the couch or in the bed, like, for probably 12 hours a day.
Yeah.
I would go on walks, I have my dogs, so I'd walk them, but, like, the fatigue and the nausea were really overwhelming, and I tried to get workouts in, I tried a couple of times, and I just in the moment, I was like, "Okay, I'm doing it," but then, like, it would leave me feeling even more exhausted, uncomfortably tired, and I was like, "Okay, let me, like, reevaluate here." Plus, if I'm not eating much, then I don't really have a lot of extra energy to give to performing in the gym or recovering and building a human being inside me.
Mhm.
So, I had to take a step back and just kind of accept, and that was again, I like to be very mindful and, like, I went into my pregnancy telling myself, like, I am going to set some goals and I'm going to strive for certain things, but I'm also going to accept the reality of my situation. I'm not going to force something because ultimately, at the end of the day, I want to be healthy and I want a healthy baby. And so, that's just how the cookie crumbled. I maybe worked out 3 times my entire pregnancy. After that,
Same.
outside yeah. I think I just did, like, mostly, like, mobility, and, obviously that lower back and those hips start to get really angry.
Mhm.
And so I mostly just, like, there was a point where I was just living on my heating pad and my yoga ball. I'm not even kidding. My husband was like, "This is really hot. How are you sitting on this?" I'm like, "Don't mess with me." Like, so yeah. I did have questions. There would be questions sometimes because I post, I'm like stretching or I'm doing like little body weight movements at home. And I had a mom ask me, how do you, how do you still, like, what ab exercises are you doing? How do you still have like, how do you maintain visible abs while you're pregnant? I'm like, whoa, 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 whoa. Then no, don't be doing any like crunches or like, don't do that.
Mhm.
I do core engagement. You want to do some deep, pelvic floor work to maintain engagement because it does, at least from what I've seen, help lead to more successful like vaginal births. Um, but outside of that, a lot of it I've seen is pretty genetic. I've seen moms who are in the gym 4 days a week, eating, 4 or 5 solid square meals a day, high protein, and they're still gaining 40, 50, 60 pounds. And so, while some of it is inside your control, your body is going to respond to your hormones the way that it's going to respond. And
Mhm.
it's just your job to kind of work your way and navigate that at the end of the day, at least from what I've seen.
It's very much so genetic. Like you said earlier, some people will give birth and 4 weeks later, bam, they have abs. Like, it's like they did you even give birth? It's
Yeah.
crazy, right?
I
Whereas
noticed
like
it's
you
like the more taller, longer
Mhm.
torso people because they have more room, I think, for the
Yeah.
baby. I'm 5 feet, so like there was nowhere for that thing to grow but out, and so
Yeah.
like seeing these
Same.
stretch. I didn't have stretch marks until I think the final few weeks, and like when I saw them start to form, I was like, I thought I had man, but no.
I can relate to that. I had no stretch marks, and I'm tall. I'm almost 5'7". So I had
Okay.
no stretch marks, and then that little guy wanted to drop. He just
Mhm.
plummeted the
Yep.
last like 2, 3 weeks, and all my stretch marks are so low because of it. He just
Yes.
dropped like a ball. And I'm like,
Yeah.
thanks.
Right. Your skin is like, help me. Oh my
Yeah.
god.
Well, I appreciate you sharing that because I think there's
Mhm.
also like a lot of pressure for like anybody who shares like fitness content and like obviously
Mhm.
IFBB pros or people that are like, high level competitors to just sort of, oh, you like nail it every day. Of course, you're just going to have like a fit pregnancy. But I think it's like very real to just like for people to understand like we're human beings and like you have to respond to your body. And I think it's really great that you listened and, took care of yourself as best that you could, and it sounds like that's kind of just what you were forced to do. I mean, it was the same for me. I had morning sickness the entire 40 weeks. It was
It's
it
so
was
brutal.
terrible, and then, yeah, and but everything you learn on the other side of it, like, it all works out, like, I can say now I've had success competing post-baby, but I think that's another thing that people sometimes don't talk about is, like, you have the baby, and then there's this whole phase of, like, everything, getting back to normal, so to speak.
Mhm.
And initially, I think that can be very surprising, like the postpartum phase of just trying to find routine with a new baby, and you really don't get an instruction manual on what to do with this little beautiful thing. So, what was that initial like postpartum phase like for you?
Oh my goodness. Because I did this our audience is my primarily women, so it's fine. But I did tear. So I had a couple of tears and there was I mean, let's just talk about it. So I had a tear and then there was a part where in my labor where she was like her head was out, almost like the top of her head. And there was like one moment in labor where they had me lying on my back and on my right side. And my entire pregnancy, once she got big enough, I could not lay on either of those. Like I could not lay on my back. I could not lay on my right side because I just felt like it was cutting off my blood circulation, honestly.
Yeah.
And if I ever rolled onto that, she would kind of wake me up and like my body would kind of wake me up and be like, yo, like something's wrong. And so there was a part where they had me there and her heart rate dropped pretty low. And they had me kind of like moving around. They were like pushing on my belly, kind of like trying to find, a way to get her heart rate back up. And that was kind of scary. And so we got to the point of pushing and she was almost out and she was like, listen, I don't love to do this, but she's so close. If we just give you a little she might come she'll probably come right out. And so I was like, "Just do it, just cut me, I'll deal with it. I don't want anything risking her heart rate dropping because she was like, "If that
Yeah.
happens again, we'd probably wanna opt on the side of, like, an emergency C-section." I was like, "No, no, 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 no." So I was like, "I'll deal with it, just get her out." And so they cut me, one more push, and she was out, thank God. So I had to heal from those stitches, and that whole, like they say 6 weeks are supposed to dissolve. there was like one little knot that I felt her do, and I was like, I have a feeling that that's not going to heal, like that's not going to dissolve completely on its own.
Yeah.
And of course, it did not. I had to go back in and get them to cut it out. Because I was like, it's uncomfortable for me to just like be wearing this in my skin. And it was a bad time, let me tell you, having them cut that
Yeah.
out. They even shot it up with, I think, what's it called, lidocaine, and I still was just like, "All right, jaw clenched, like, let's just do this, push through."
Mm,
And so I wasn't up until, like, 8 to 9 weeks that, like, I felt like I could actually just, like, move around and, like, walk normal.
Yeah.
So, that was fun.
Oh,
Um
yeah.
I tried to get walks in, where I could through that time. Because even, like, sitting and, like, getting in and out of bed was very uncomfortable,
Huh.
until the stitches were, like, completely out. And then after that, I wanna say it was, like, maybe around 10 weeks that I, like, tried my first, like, little, like, studio gym workout, like, at my apartment complex. And, it served its purpose. It, like, got me out moving my body, but there wasn't like, I wasn't hitting PRs or anything like that.
Yeah.
Um, it was just more for me to kinda just, like, get out and, like, test the waters. Um, I didn't even get a gym membership, I think, until I felt like I was like, "Okay, we're 12-ish weeks postpartum, like, let's kinda just, like, dive into this, postpartum fitness journey now." But I think even after that, it was difficult for me to 'cause I'm still breastfeeding, but I did, breastfeeding. It went really, really well, but for the first 4 weeks, I've heard and read that, like, you wanna do the first 4 weeks strong, like, no bottles, no pacifiers, because you don't want the, like, nipple confusion, whatever it is.
Right.
Get that secure, breastfeeding, like, connection with your baby. I was like, "Okay, let's just do that." Um, which made it difficult, obviously, for me to, like, really get out anywhere.
Yeah.
yeah.
And then even after that, like, I'm her only meal, so my gym time was very limited. Navigating all of that was there were times where I was like, what am I even doing? Like, is this um especially because obviously my husband going back to work, we don't have, a lot of family. We don't have any family here. And we don't do nannies or like any of that like extra help around the house. So it's just me and the dogs, and the baby. So my gym schedule ultimately, and it kind of still also depends on my husband's work schedule, which
Yeah.
is also difficult to navigate. Because sometimes there will be like weeks where things just kind of go crazy and I just don't get to the gym the entire week. Um, and so that was why one of the posts I made recently was like, I achieved a pretty decent, like, postpartum transformation without being perfect. And that's where that like all or nothing mindset has to go out the window. And you're not just like, okay, well, if I can't be in the gym for my hour and a half, then like I can't go. It's like
Mhm.
that really doesn't serve you well here, Daraja.
Yeah.
So let's stop that completely for now. Your time will come again. But for
Yeah.
now, just do the best you can with what you have. So that's pretty much been like my journey postpartum up until now. Food-wise, there are days where I'm pretty on point. There are days where, like, it's just the routine of, getting myself up, getting her up. Now she has teeth, so we're brushing her teeth, we wash her face,
Aw.
we comb her hair, and then I'm like, "Okay, coffee?
Yeah.
When do I eat breakfast?" So, like, yeah, there are no perfect, like there's never a week or 2 weeks or consecutive weeks where my routine looks the same. It's just, "Okay, what can we do today?"
Mhm.
So, yeah.
Yeah. I I have clients that will check in and their check-in will be like, "Oh, I just didn't get that much sleep. My son crawled into bed with me and we just snuggled and it was 3 in the morning." And it's like they they almost are feel bad telling me this, but I love coming back to them with that attitude. Like, it's okay. Like, it's okay. Like, treasure those moments. Snuggle in bed. You can make up the workout. We can do a workout at home. We can
Yeah.
figure out your food, but like snuggle with your son while
We
you have the
co-sleep.
time.
Yeah,
Yeah,
we
it
tried
just
the crib, and it just she was like, "Get me out of this prison, like, what are we doing?" I actually tried. I real one of my best friends, she was able to, like, sleep train both of her babies, and I was like, "Oh, cool, like, send me your resources, let me try that out," and I part of me probably manifested having a very attached baby, honestly, because, like, let's be honest, I wanted this baby so bad, and for, like, my own, like, healing reasons, and, of course, now she is, like, up my butt, super Velcro baby. And she, like, unless she's on me or even, like, obviously on my husband, she's like, she doesn't sleep well. So, we tried the bassinet next to the bed, didn't like that. She just kept rolling in, like, into the side of it to, like, snuggle closer to me. So I was like, "Just get in the bed." So after 6 weeks of attempting to, like, get her to sleep on her own, I was like, "This is, like, we're fighting something here. Let's just stop fighting it."
Yeah.
So she just started sleeping in the bed with us. And then after a while, I was, like, getting pissed off at my husband all the time because 'cause I'm like, "You keep getting in and out of bed, you're coughing, you're moving, you're waking her up." Like, if she would stir, I'd be like, don't touch her," because like, it'll just wake her up more. So I was like, "Let me just" I got her a full-size mattress, guardrails, and we just sleep in there together.
Yeah.
Rolls over, she's like, "Booby," 'cause she can say booby now. So she'll be like,
Oh,
"Booby."
it's cute.
And I'm like, "Alright, here you go." And then we just go back to sleep.
You probably get
oh,
more sleep that way. I had
yeah,
Velcro babies too, and they grew up completely fine. So
yeah,
Yes.
they're very well
Yeah,
adjusted. So it
yeah,
was just easier,
exactly.
honestly. And I don't know, they're only little for so long. And
I
I
know.
felt bad about it. I'm like, I guess I shouldn't be like letting my kids sleep in my bed, but I don't
I know,
know.
you definitely I feel like guilt sometimes where I'm like, "Am I doing this wrong?"
Yeah.
But something inside says, "No, you're not. You're fine."
Yeah. You
I
just
feel like
gotta,
there's all pressures from like all different, like, should they sleep with me? Should they not? Should pacifier not? Bottle, boob
Right.
not? And it's just like you
Yeah.
got to do what's right for you guys. Like you had that intuition. You're like, this is what we're gonna do.
Yeah, yeah. Every baby's different. I was like, "I wonder how my second, because we want a second one, so I was like, "How
Uh,
is, the next one gonna be? Are they gonna be the same? Are they gonna be a little different?" They always say the second baby is, like, a little bit more kinda, like, laid back just because they have so much more to, like, deal with.
yeah.
So, I don't know.
It'll be
Yes.
surprising.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So sort of on that note then, because there are, like there's some talks about, like where you're at, what you're
Yeah.
doing, and, some, updates and whatnot. So do you have plans to compete before having another baby, or are you just letting the universe take control?
So, we kinda decided too that we didn't wanna start really trying until she was, like, 2.5, maybe 3. I I'm also not really planning on competing this year. I wanna compete next year because I want to come back, guns blazing. I don't wanna just
Yeah.
come back and be like, "Oh, she came back after having a baby." I want it to be like, "Oh, what?"
Mm,
So, I wanna take my time in building my physique back, and hopefully making it better than it was before. And, I also just want to one, I really wanted this baby, but I also really wanted a little girl. And so I want to enjoy all the firsts that I have with her and not have to be like, "Oh, baby, you're doing something so cool," but like I have this, newborn that I have to like also be paying attention to. And so we're not rushing baby number 2. Um I definitely want to just like get on stage, I think, one more time because I also don't know how my body's gonna respond after a second baby. I don't know how I'm gonna feel about, that chapter of my life in terms of, like, competing after my second baby. Am I gonna wanna still do that? So, I just wanna do it while there's just one to manage and take care
mhm.
of and love and nurture, and then, we'll see what happens
Yeah.
after baby number 2.
Yeah. No, I think that's great. And I mean, I think you probably like maintained pretty well, a lot of your structure, but has there been any like surprises about like, strength or like areas of your body that you're like, whoa, I like really have to build that back, like in the process of like just kind of finding that postpartum body?
I think I want to say not in terms of surprises, not really. I knew it was gonna take some time to, like, get my strength back, like, I used to do, hip thrust like a freaking champ, and then my first time back doing it, I just threw on, like, 2 10-pound plates. I was like, "Let me, like, not, you know, murder myself here."
Yeah.
Because again, wasn't training prior to that for months. Obviously, have the advantage knowledge-wise because, this is also, like, kind of what I went to school for, but I also, like, understand just how your body gets back into something after it's not done it for a while. Um, and so I think one surprise is my strength did come back pretty quickly. Um, but I did try to pace myself. I didn't wanna overdo it and
Yeah.
then obviously get hurt because your core and your pelvic floor are also working on coming back together. I did
Yeah.
have a bit of diastasis that I'm, like, working on, recovering as well, and I'm like, "Okay, well, if I already have a core that's kind of been broken down and injured, and then my body is also kind of getting back into the swing of things. I don't wanna overload my body and then risk hurting my back, right? Or,
Yeah.
your mechanics change because your body just went through this whole thing, your hips had to do this and then, like,
Yeah.
open up, and so
Yeah.
understanding that as well, like, I'm not going to just, like, throw my body into the fire. Um, but muscle memory is definitely a thing, and, like, seeing my muscle volume come back, I definitely, like, looked at my butt postpartum, and I was like, "She's so sad." I was like, "I've never had a saggy butt in my life, and now I'm like, where did she go?" So, seeing that come back to life has been a confidence boost.
That's
Yeah.
good.
But I think that's so helpful for people to understand, it does take time, but muscle does have memory. You just have to, like, keep the faith and go slow, and you're right, like, that whole, like, center of your body is, like, different, like, you've been
Yeah.
through
Mhm.
a lot, like, not only, like, a baby taking space there, but then also the delivery process, and, like, I had read somewhere, like, it takes, like, about a year for just, like, even for your hips to kinda just, like, go back to where they were somewhere near before, but when you think about all the movements we do particularly now in bikini training, because 15 years ago when I had my kids, like, we weren't even hip thrusting back then, but how that core stability is, like, so important. So you had mentioned about diastases. When did you discover that you had that, and then what are some things that you're doing to fix it?
So odd, but very early, I noticed, like, once the hormones really kicked in for pregnancy, I just noticed that the upper part of my core started to, like, just look a little looser, and, like, where I would, like, go to flex my abs, like, I just noticed a little bit of a space, and I was like, "Hmm, interesting." And so I was like, "That's where we're going." And then, after having her and getting back into the gym, I just noticed, like, especially doing, like, hip thrusts or, like, different movements, I definitely noticed that, like, my it would kind of not protrude, but, like, bulge, I guess, a little bit, or I just noticed there's just this gap in my rectus abdominis that, like, didn't used to really be there. So, it's not, like, super bad, but it is, like, something that I wanna make sure that I, like, kinda get under control because obviously for just core control on stage too is, important part of that
Yeah.
overall package. But also, like, general health things. Having a strong core
Yeah.
is just important in everyday life, so because I wanna go picking up my baby and be like, "Oh my god, my back." So
Yeah.
Yeah. As somebody with like a back injury, I was talking not that long ago to Jillian about this because I work with like Hannah Waist and Time for pelvic floor core
mm,
training, but we started doing this training that has actually like helped my nerve damage that I have from my hip because of the lower abdominal training and engaging those muscles in different forms
yeah.
that like describing, hey, this is like a sensation I've never felt before, but it's relieving. It's not
Mm,
painful, but it's relieving. It's like, okay, let's practice this in your homework. I'm like, okay, over the course of time now, it has been so relieving, but you didn't know those muscles were tight or that was even a problem. You knew like I had pain, but to your point, like kind of looking at a different approach on like being in tune with yourself and seeing like, okay, instead of doing like crunches and leg lifts and all this stuff, like how can we really help our hips, help our lower
right.
pelvic floor, like how
Functional
our
stuff.
breath work. Yeah, to be able to engage and control our core, not just on stage, but as moms, because now I can feel completely different, right?
Yeah,
Hmm.
exactly. It feels like it did feel like I was starting over, like
Yeah.
completely, because you're like all the movements kind of feel different where you're like, okay, I feel like a newbie essentially. But it made me empathize with the moms who honestly have significantly less experience with, um, sorry, every time,
Oh,
like when you hear your baby cry, you're
yeah.
like, your brain's just like,
Yeah.
what? Where's the threat?
Hmm.
Yeah.
I hope he's not doing nap time. Anyways, it made me empathize with the moms who like really they're either starting their fitness journey postpartum, like for the first time, or they just don't have a lot of experience in exercise and resistance training and working out in general. And then they're postpartum and then like they're told, okay, go work out. It's like,
Yeah.
what do you mean?
Hmm.
Because not only are you learning these movements for the first time, but you're also having to learn, what true core engagement feels like, and how to navigate, the fact that your body's just, you're still in this repair mode. And so I think, yeah, that's also, I think, is something very important to remember too, as moms who are just starting out in their fitness journey, being postpartum, is you probably need to give yourself even more grace and understanding because this, your hormones, your emotions, your mental state are all over the place. And then you're like in this fire of like navigating newborn life, it transition into like, okay, this infant and then this toddler. And then you also have to like mentally be present in the gym. It's like, how do you do that? So
Yeah.
It's a tall order.
it's a lot. It's a lot. I just see
Mhm.
the plates stacking and it's just like really high. So
Yeah. But I think
yeah.
it probably really helps your clients because they know that you get it and you're like walking that path as well.
Yeah.
Um,
Well,
yeah, so I'm sure it's been great. And you are now with refined strength with your two close friends. And so that was sort of like a change that you made around the time of embarking on motherhood. So
yeah,
can you talk about sort of like that transition and what it's been like on this new journey with them?
for sure. Honestly, it's been amazing. I obviously I used to coach for Team Pro Physique, and my friend, well, Rachel, she, I think a year prior to myself and Jessica joining her for as coaches, she left and decided to, start Refined Strength as her business in coaching. And obviously we remained friends. So I'm like, girl, like do your thing, build your empire. Like I'm proud of you. That's incredible. And it's also, something that I felt like I could see myself doing down the road. And just with the things that I wanted to do to grow myself as a coach, as a business person, and, still working for myself because, I didn't, I couldn't imagine myself going back to work to like a normal job where I have
Hmm.
to like, clock in and show up at a certain time and even just leave the house. I didn't want to have to leave my baby, honestly.
Yeah.
And, the more we would chat, me, Jess, and Rachel, we just kind of started to realize like we really, our philosophy in coaching and our vision for what we wanted to do in terms of building her brand and her business really aligned like almost effortlessly.
Yeah.
And so it was really funny because it was, I think, maybe a couple of months before I delivered Azalea that I was kind of thinking like, like what if I coached with Rachel? And I was like, no, 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 it's her baby. Like she wouldn't, want anything to kind of come in and like disrupt her flow because she was, growing really well on her own. And it was so funny because around the same time, she like reached out to me and she was like, I want to run something by you, but I don't want to, you know, step on toes or whatever. And it was definitely, I think, a risk on her part, obviously knowing the relationship that I established with Pro Physique. And she was like, "Would you wanna coach with me?" And I was like, "Shut the front door." Because I was just thinking about this, and so obviously stars aligned, and we just decided to take the leap together. And so they did a great job. I will say, and this is something that I will forever be grateful to them for, them being Rachel and Jess and Lila, who's, our she she works very closely with Refined Strength doing a lot of the back end work that, like, I don't know how to do. And they supported me really well through they allowed me to get maternity leave, and take I wanna say it was how long did I take? I don't even remember now. I took a couple months off though, to kinda just be postpartum,
Yeah.
and they supported me through that. They helped me with my clients and checking in with them. And then, they also kinda just supported me in the sense of, you know, not letting me limit my not letting me live in very limiting self-belief, um, and telling me, like, "You can do it. Yes, it's gonna be hard and it looks different," and neither of them have or want kids, funny enough, but they've done such a great job of, I think, supporting me and kind of pushing me to, like, really get outside of my comfort zone in terms of, like, if you're gonna build a brand, you can't hide,
Mm.
unfortunately. You can't hide from social media, and, like,
Yeah.
I have this internal battle sometimes with social media because there are definitely times where I am just like, "I just don't really feel like engaging with social. I don't wanna post, I don't wanna do this and that." But learning how to restructure my content even, I no longer post as this, like, four-time Olympian IFBB Bikini Pro who's just, like, out here doing cool shit,
Yeah.
I was like, I my content, I think, has more substance now, and is more curated toward, like, a specific demographic, and I hope to continue to grow in that, and I don't think that I could do that without the support from my girls, so we have some fun projects that I'm working on to help with, postpartum. Like I want to make a guide that is taking me forever to get done. Um, and just how I think the way that we coach and how we just continue to strive for more growth as coaches, whether it be in education or the resources that we allow for our clients. It's exactly like what I wanted to do in my mind. So it's just exciting that I now get to do that, but also with really great friends of mine. So
Yeah.
it's been cool.
And you're still doing cool shit. It just looks different.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it just looks different now.
Just yeah.
But I think that's so relatable and people
Mhm.
really need that because there are more athletes that are trying to juggle it all and maybe if they only see somebody just showing like the perfect meal prep
Yeah.
and their perfect life, it's like it's discouraging and
It's
really
not
like there's
surface.
this can
Mm,
be
It's too
done
surface
at any
for me.
phase.
Yeah,
yes.
I'm very aware of how that can look online, and that's what I really don't wanna do is make people think that I'm just over here having my shit together all the time. It's like, yeah, no, there are times where I miss meals, there are times where I, like, fall behind on my meal prep. There are times where I get, like, 4 hours of sleep. So, yeah, I definitely want that to I wanna make sure that I I show enough of that and enough vulnerability, but, like, not, th me right now, the way that I look, it's, like, less than 1% now because it's just yeah, some days I don't know and I've seen the moms that like, they're like, "Oh, I never like to go the whole day without putting on my makeup and doing my hair," and I'm like, Good for you." But I just don't have it today, so yeah.
I will say, as somebody that scrolls your social media, I love your content. I think it's so relatable, and it is what we need to see. I mean, that was kind of the whole premise of this podcast, years ago, was like, there's women out there that are struggling and they just don't know how powerful they really are because there's not a lot of content about it. We always see the meals, the pretty photos, the pretty places, and it's like, where's the I can barely sleep, eat, running a business. My husband's away from, work. It's,
Solo
the
parenting.
messy stuff. Yeah. The messy stuff. It's like, that's real. That's more real than the cute little selfie with the perfect food and gym workout, right? So
Yeah,
like it's so relatable. Your content is absolutely relatable.
thank you. That means a
Yeah.
lot because there are
Yeah.
days I have to, like, stop, like, overthink. I still overthink my content, and, like, that was something that we talk about in our group chat, Rachel, Jess, and I. They're like, "You just need to post." Just, like, if there's an idea, there have so many drafts in my notes about, like, things I wanna post about, that I start, like, putting out. Like, my last week, I fell off because my husband was out of town, and I'm like, "I'm just trying to survive."
Yeah.
Yeah.
With getting my check-ins done, work done, and, like, the dogs are alive and well and not being in the
Yeah.
house, this is
Yeah.
all I need right now.
Yeah. And I think that's okay. Like you have to, function and you have to be able to show up and family first and clients and
Mhm.
work and all of that. But I think that we put a lot of pressure on ourselves and I think we're our own worst critics. But if you're putting things online, you do sort of wonder, am I going to get a horrible comment? Is somebody going to think that, I'm a total disaster and I don't know what I'm talking about? And you have to sort of just like let that voice go and,
Just make the
not focus
content.
on those people. You can only focus on really the people that you can help and that you want to share with.
Exactly. Yep, that's all I'm focused on now.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's been a minute since you've competed, and I wouldn't say the industry is changing, but it's evolving. So as you've
Mhm.
sort of taken a little step back here, what's like your perspective on sort of like the direction of the bikini division, the new fit model division, and everything in between?
So, being still a lifetime natural athlete, it's something that I still want to, like, it's no judgment on anybody who wants to take the enhanced route or do, whatever. It's like, that's up to you. That's not my life. Um, we we competed in the untested federation. It is what it is.
Mhm.
But it's something that I value is being a natural athlete is something that like is I'm trying to find the words, but um I it's something that I think I guess I believe in. That
Yeah.
said, I don't even think that I could tr train if I wanted to compete in fit model because it's just the way that I carry muscle. I think I definitely best fit the bikini division, still. And, I've definitely seen conversation about how, big and hard the bikini girls are getting. And, Fit Model is now the new quote unquote attainable division for, a lot of women and, younger women getting into the sport, or even bikini pros that are retired and now coming back.
Mhm.
Uh, Definitely best suit the fit model category. My body type, I don't really think would fit that. Even
Mhm.
just that front pose where the feet are staggered, I like my quads dominate that pose. I did
Mhm.
it one time when I was first competing and like when I literally first started getting into the gym and like my quads are just popping and I'm like, there's no way I could I could fit this. And so for me, I definitely see myself continuing to strive for bikini as my category.
Mhm.
Personally, still love the look. For me, it's a fun challenge to just continue to push myself with training. I can now train harder and I can train legs more. I can just train the way that I used to like to train. Before I felt like, I had hit almost my limit in certain areas.
Mhm.
Um, I no longer feel like that there's a cap there. So I'm excited about that actually.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, and I think the fit model division coming out, I think it definitely kind of like opens the door for specific body types that like have that kind of like really I mean honestly
Mhm.
Janet Leigh and Jessica Wilson are to me great
Yeah.
examples of that because they just
Yeah.
have that like pretty flow longer looking muscles to their physique
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
really fit that category well. And again, is I think that kind of like almost more pageanty element to competing.
Yeah.
Um, and so I think it'll be interesting to see how the first pro show looks
Mhm.
out because I think a lot of people are kind of still waiting on the edge of their seat, like, okay, what it is fit model really? Like what yes, they have the
Yeah.
criteria spelled out, but like what does that actually look like?
Yeah.
Um, so that people can get a more clear image of, okay, this is what we're working towards in sort of conditioning, muscularity, and things like that. So in in terms of bikini, I think I obviously there was a lot of talk about the Bikini Olympia and Maureen winning, having that
Mhm.
kind of
Mhm.
softer look to her. And personally, I actually do think that Ashlyn, I think to me, had the Bikini Olympia physique in terms of the criteria in my
Mhm.
mind. Um, but of course, that is I think it was a lot to process if you're really following the sport and you're trying to
Yeah.
understand the criteria and what they're looking for. So I think it'll be interesting to see how the season unfolds with how the winners look this year in this season, especially with Fit Model coming out. Especially also seeing Fit Model and Bikini on the same stage will be
Mhm.
interesting.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, I'm excited about the Arnold because that'll also,
Yeah.
I think, tell us a little bit more about what they're looking for. I've actually seen like Ashlyn's updates, so I mean, she looks pretty insane.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it'll be, yeah, that lineup's gonna be fun to kind of like watch and like kind of like look and see. But
Yeah.
I'm hoping that bikini doesn't like get too. I mean, between the European competitors and, like, US, I think the European competitors tend to kind of be on the harder, leaner,
Mhm.
drier
Mhm.
side. I do like that the US or the North American side, like, isn't quite as hard and as lean,
Mhm.
Yeah.
because it still has that soft femininity to it. I feel like when you do get that lean, it the face kinda just starts to look a little too sunken in and just a little
Mhm.
too hard in the cheekbones, and then it just doesn't have that nice, pretty, like, look, that soft feminine look that they like for bikini.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I'm hoping that they kind of, like, balance that out a little bit this season. Um, but either way, it'll be a fun challenge. That's what I looked at it as when I first started. That's still how I look at it. So,
Mhm.
Yeah.
You just keep evolving with the sport, how it comes, and take it
yeah.
year
Yeah.
after year, really.
Yeah,
Like
I
the
know it's
Arnold.
exactly.
Yeah.
No sense in me, complaining about it or saying, "Oh, this is getting too hard. I'll just see what happens."
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I don't think it's changed. I just think it's like it's who's showing up and like
Mhm.
I think for me, like as a short athlete and I'm seeing like a shorter like top five, like
Yeah.
and
Yeah,
years back it was like everyone that average height was like that CD class.
Mhm.
And, I used to think I'm too short for this sport. Like
I
it's,
know,
but
yeah.
now that like more petite, compact look is what seems to be like right now at least dominating. So that's encouraging for like little itty bitty people like us, right? Um
Okay. Okay, I see how you are. I see how you are. I'm sorry I'm 5'7", okay?
so, but I mean, it's just again, it's who is like in the moment, sort of like
It
um
is. It
at the
Mhm.
top.
Thing
So
is, when the further along you get in the season and the more that girls compete, the leaner and the harder they can sometimes look. It's just because the
yeah,
conditioning that comes with doing more and more shows. So I think
Mhm.
that
mhm,
sometimes can get away from people a little bit and like not really people aren't thinking about that. But it's like people tend to like there's sometimes a softer look that's rewarded towards the beginning of the year. People are just coming out. But as
Hmm.
people keep doing more shows, more dieted down, it's just, I think, sometimes an inevitable evolution of the look.
Yeah, they look
So
tired.
yeah, yeah. So I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah. It's going to
Hmm.
be interesting.
It will
So,
be.
well, we have loved chatting with you
Mm.
today. And I always smile every time I hear your
Yeah.
voice. And I
Oh,
just, loved having you on and sharing with our audience what it's been like for you on this journey. So, would you share with our listeners where they can reach out to you and find out more about you?
yes. And my Instagram, my personal athlete Instagram is at Daraja Wide, DARAJAWEID. And then my coach's Instagram is at Coach Daraja. So if you are like looking for one or the other, you can find me there. Shoot me a DM. And all my links and everything are in my bio as well. So
Um,
Yeah, and we will be sure to link all of that information in our show notes below so you guys can click on them and be able to go right to Daraja's pages. And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe with any of your friends and other followers. And thank you so much for listening, guys. Bye.
yeah. Bye.